Hi, everyone. This is Jeffrey Sykes. I'm here with Stephanie Jutt. We're the co-artistic directors of Bach Dancing and Dynamite. And we are here with one of our all-time favorite BDDS musicians, Adrian Morejon, a wonderful bassoonist who is living in the New York area. Hi, Adrian. How's it
Hello.
going?
It's going. It's it's really a pleasure to be here with you guys and be a part of this great project and ongoing series. And things are going well, and I think it's hard to answer that question these days without just admitting what's going on in the world, right?
Yeah.
And just spending all this time at home and being with my family, which is great. And I've been spending more time with my 21-month-old Elliot, who is a godsend for me, and really and it's been really great to just spend more time with my family and realize how important that is to me. It's really been important for me to just kind of understand that family has been great. Just spending time with them and how much I travel from work, and kind of thinking about how to reorganize my life when we get out of this to kind of spend more time with my family. So yeah, so things are great. Things are good in that sense, and I've been thinking a lot about the world and what's going on around us. How are you guys?
Doing well, hanging in there. I mean, part of what has made it really possible to get through this time is doing wonderful projects like this and talking to our friends and our colleagues across the world in this kind of a way. And we've had a lot of wonderful and interesting and meaningful conversations about lots of things. So yeah, so doing okay. It's a hard time, hard adjustment. But I was going to say for you, we as musicians, we travel a lot. We spend so much time in the car or in the airplane. And for you, with essentially a baby at home, I mean, how wonderful to have this time in particular at home to be able to play with Elliot during the most important time of his life in a way.
Yeah, it's really been that's a great point, Jeff. It's been incredible just spending these developmental years with him, or moments with him, as he becomes a little toddler and as he's like learning to speak, creating his personality and, learning how to get into trouble, and just, getting to immerse myself in that is irreplaceable.
I was talking to my daughter who has I guess he's 23 months old now. He'll be 2 in July,
In July. I think they're like weeks apart, aren't they?
Well, his birthday is July 3rd. When is Elliot's?
Oh, no, sorry. It's more than that. August 28th.
Oh, yeah. So it's almost 2 months difference.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is I was telling her, we're all so stressed out about this preschool, and they're going to go to preschool. They're not going to get to go to preschool. And blah, blah, blah. I was saying, when I was growing up, you stayed home with your mother until you were 5 years old.
Yeah.
Your mother was home every day, and your mother was cooking, and she was watching out for you and your grandparents. And that's the way it was. We didn't even have preschool, I don't think. So you just stayed home, and nobody thought that, you were going to be like scarred for life because you stayed home till you were going to kindergarten. Kindergarten was like the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm just trying to get her to not stress so much over whether or not the preschool for your 2-year-old is going to open up or not. We'll make do. We'll make do. And I know how to be clever and entertaining with a baby. I just got a whole big box of sidewalk chalk, and I got these waterproof aprons to do water things. I wish we had a yard, of course, but we can work. It's a good workaround. We can do it.
Oh, it's great. And it's and I'd be lying if I said I didn't stress about the longevity of this situation and Elliot's potential consideration into preschool or whatnot. But I agree with you. When I was growing up, it was I would spend time with my mom and my older brothers in my case. and I played outside all the time. And
Right.
you know, several years ago, we made the big move and left New York City and bought a house out in Long Island. And now we're really fortunate that we have this incredible yard, and Elliot really appreciates it. And so it's really, you know, we're getting to really focus on our bubble during this time, at a crucial time, like we've said already, in his life. And my mother-in-law's with us.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's me and Brian and Brian's mom, and she's been, you know, since Elliot was born, she's been living with us on and off throughout the seasons, and then during the summer and then the winter she tries to go home. And so it's, you know, it's really ideal for Elliot, and
Mhm.
ideal for us to just, you know, love him and spend this quality time with him.
Right.
And yeah, which is a great distraction from everything else.
I've been able to teach Ellington to play two notes on the recorder. Have
Oh,
this
really?
recorder.
Hmm.
So maybe in a few months, your baby will be able to do that too.
Well, he does have like a little
No.
like baby bells kind of thing, so he
Oh,
gets into that. But no, you know, I agree with you. You know, as wind players, maybe a recorder will be a nice thing to introduce at some point.
it's an
We
excellent weapon too.
exactly. The mallet on the bell is, you have to be careful. It swings around a little too quickly.
Exactly. Well,
But
that's good.
luckily for me, Elliot's also really into. We have an old record player that we've fixed up and have functioning again, and Elliot's been really into playing records. And actually, Jeffrey, I wonder if you remember these. Like growing up, my mom came from Cuba, and she was a pianist when she was in Cuba, but then coming to the States, you know, start all over. This is typical 60s Cuban immigration. And she kind of had to stop playing, but she still had a piano. So from an early age, I had exposure to just having a piano and having that encyclopedia of piano repertoire that was pretty common back then, and all the records that came with it.
Oh,
And luckily I still have those records. And so you know, it's really nice to just have that. And Elliot's really into a lot of this like piano repertoire from an early age, and he loves trying to play with it, except, you know, we have to watch out because he scratches everything if we're not careful. So it's nice that he's already like developing an interest in a lot of this music, which is great.
that's great. That's
Mhm.
what I often forget that you are a keyboard player as well. You are a
Mhm.
harpsichordist. In fact, I
Yes.
remember seeing photos of you with a harpsichord in your
Did
home.
you build that harpsichord?
No, I found it. It was up in New Hampshire, and it was a son of a harpsichordist who was in the Boston area who had passed years ago, and the family held on to the instrument. And unfortunately, the instrument was like in kind of a New Hampshire uh, farm type home or living situation where like it wasn't in the right settings for a while. So I had my work cut out for me, but we made a nice deal in me bringing it down home and purchasing it from them. And it's been a little side project of mine just to have something to play on at home. And that's correct. You know, in undergrad, I did both bassoon and harpsichord. And I've been kind of playing more harpsichord in the past couple years. And so having an instrument at home has been really nice. So, you know, we have the piano, we have the harpsichord. You know, you can see like keyboards but this is more for teaching purposes. And actually I have an electric organ right behind me as well. And so yeah, so definitely keyboard's been a big part of my life as well. And I think that influence from my mother probably helped in that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it
Yeah.
did. I would love to have a harpsichord if I had space. You know, my place is so dinky here. I have space for my piano, and that's about it. But I would love to have a harpsichord. Although you know, having to tune the thing, oh, it takes forever to tune those things. And and you look at a harpsichord and it goes out of tune. I mean, it's all you have
Exactly. No,
to
it's true. And
maintain quills and the plectra and all of that yourself?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that actually what I have is a Wittmeyer, which I don't know how familiar you are with these instruments from I think it's like the 70s or 80s. They were kind of more modern takes on replicas of harpsichords. So they had some different mechanisms with them. And it just happens to be the instrument that I found. And so luckily, I had good training and maintenance and definitely tuning and whatnot. So I maintain it as best as I can. However, you're right. It is very hard to keep up with it. And there are long stretches where I just have it closed, also until Elliot starts understanding they can't just bang on it. Because in the beginning, he was just kind of like he loved the harpsichord more than the piano.
Of course.
And yeah, and who knows why that is, but it was.
I know why.
Yeah.
Because of the harpsichord, you have the plectrum, and you get that little bump, on when if you playing the piano, there's no resistance to it. Whereas on the harpsichord, I can get through that little thing. It's
perhaps
more simple,
Yeah, there's more feel involved with the harpsichord, and so regardless, there comes a time where it has to be okay, we're done banging the harpsichord because Boppy has to tune it all over again. And but I do love that he's exposed to it. Yeah. And it's such a great instrument.
Well, we're going to have to take advantage of this in the future, Jeffrey.
Yes.
Grab a harpsichord for him.
Yeah.
So you can do both in a concert. For sure, we'll do that. We've had harpsichord a couple of times, and Jeff, will play the harpsichord, and he likes to. Mm-hmm. But to have somebody who's really does that all the time is really always a thrill. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. It's a beautiful repertoire, especially with Bach in mind. Of course, we're going to talk about Bach in a bit. And also actually something that I do a lot as primarily a bassoonist who also plays harpsichord, because my career is more bassoon heavy, of course. I do a lot. I like to focus a lot of my attention on the contemporary repertoire of the harpsichord, because that's also something that many audiences don't get to hear.
That's right.
Yeah, and so for example, last fall, up in Boston, I performed a piece by Do To You for harpsichord, oboe, percussion, and double bass, and that kind of repertoire, I think, is something that stands out to me.
I played, I studied harpsichord for years in graduate school. I did a little bit as an undergraduate. I didn't do a double major or anything, but I had studied organ as an undergraduate. As well as piano, and then did a little bit of harpsichord, and then in graduate school did a lot of harpsichord and love it. But one of the pieces that I played that I always loved to play was the Manuel de Falla concerto, which is super fun. The harpsichord concerto, super fun. And then there was this crazy piece. Do you remember, Stephanie, when we played this crazy piece by Ned Rorem called Lovers?
Oh yeah, that was so weird though, Jeff.
Such a weird, cool, but weird, cool sounds, but weird.
It was really out there. But, we had a harpsichord that year or that week, when we were looking around for interesting things to do. And I have that one piece called The Mysterious Divertimento of Dr. T. Have you ever heard me play that?
No.
Yeah, that's really great, by a flutist who's a composer named Mark Carlson in LA. A wonderful, wonderful piece.
I have to check these
pieces out. To write a sequel, a couple of more movements to that, because it's such a fantastic piece. Well, if we get together, we'll play it, I've been loving it. I've had that piece for, more than 20 years, and it doesn't have any companion pieces, which is wrong. So it's something I'm going to take notes on this. So have you had any time to do any reading or see any movies or anything that we should know about that was inspiring for you?
So my immediate answer is I've watched a lot of Laurie Berkner and other children's music videos, which kind of dominates our time here. We're very adamant about, limiting screen time, but under these circumstances, you can imagine it's a little looser. But aside from that, I have been and this kind of goes into some of the stuff that's going on in the world. I think especially with all the racial issues going on, I have taken advantage of Netflix has offered many recommendations around these issues, and I've been meaning to, and I hadn't seen the series When They See Us, which was about the Central Park Five. And so that was really impactful. And on a lighter note, there's kind of drama, or I guess dramedy, would you consider it? Dear White People, which is another fun show. And so I've been trying to like just get out of my comfort zone and just kind of try to expose myself to things that I perfectly enjoy, but just either didn't have the time to get to, and admit that I could be better about just seeing more things and being exposed to more things. And so it's been really nice to just explore what's on, we stream a lot of things. We're big Netflix, Hulu people here, and just seeing what's suggested and what's recommended. I think on my short list coming up is The 13th. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, that.
It's a documentary that talks about the 13th Amendment, and it's by the same person who did When They See Us. And it talks about how how slavery was abolished with the amendment, and how that allowed this country to transition into a situation with imprisonment instead, and just kind of how things, and it documents that. And it's really interesting and really powerful, and or from what I've seen preview wise, like I said, it's next on my list. So that kind of viewing has been really impactful for me.
I watched all the Spike Lee movies.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was really, really fun and interesting and terrific. I had seen a couple of them before, but I sort of did a little blitz. Mm-hmm. And because he was out on the street here in New York City so much and talking, and, people were interviewing him on television and stuff, he's been talking about this for a long, long, long time. And I sort of had forgotten how many years Spike Lee had been around. And it was very interesting to go back to the very earliest films. She's Gotta Have It, mm-hmm. was his kind of breakout film. And I think, that's one thing I can recommend to you, is just to check out the Spike Lee movies.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Pretty wonderful.
Yeah,
I think watched Philadelphia, which
yes.
I hadn't seen since it came out. And my son, he's living with me. He has so little knowledge about the AIDS epidemic. And I just really wanted him to see something about it. So I pulled that one out, and oh my God, what a great movie that was. Great movie. And I want him to see The Normal Heart too. That was such a great movie about ACT UP. Yep. And so, it's a kind of a different part of it, but it's all the same struggle, for equality and acceptance. I mean, can we just have this, please?
Exactly. And it's a huge, we had an incredible, wonderful Supreme Court ruling this past week.
I know. What a triumph. Amazing. What a triumph. Wow.
Yes. And we need this. We needed this. It's I feel like, how many years has it been since we got gay marriage in the Supreme Court? That was in 2015.
Not that long ago. Yeah, maybe 5
years. I think it was 2015. Because actually, Brian and I were married right before that happened. And cause I remember it was between our wedding and our honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we were, because, in New York State, it was legal. So we were married, and then it became, the Supreme Court ruled on it. And then we headed off to Norway for our honeymoon. And I remember just like enjoying that timing of it. And this is, just as big, and it's coming at a time where we all need some positivity and some hope, and just, see that there's people thinking about the right things in the places that we need them to be.
Yeah. No, it's a huge victory. And I mean, we want that victory to spread into other realms too, right?
Yeah.
Other areas. But, during a time like this, a positive note like that, wow. I mean, so welcome, such a welcome note.
No, indeed. Indeed.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're going to play for us today.
So when you first asked about a box selection, I think my first reaction was just like, I already know what I'm doing. I think I knew from the get-go that it would be the Sarabon from the second suite. And I think this ties in a lot of what we've just talked about, and kind of expands on it. You know, when this all started happening with the pandemic, and then even going into the racial issues and the murder of George Floyd and all the rioting and I'm sorry, all the protesting, and then all the rioting and looting from different people. And it really, there's so much to take in. There's so much to process. And I think for a while, I just kind of had a little bit of this like numbness or this like hard moment of not knowing how to react. Like I knew what I believed, I knew what I wanted, but I felt almost stunned. And it was hard to express with words how to cope with that, how to do anything with that. It was easier to spend time with my family, work on the yard, and do things that were distractions. And you know, and I think this all kind of comes down to finding a way to let things out and express yourself. And I think there's a longing, there's this heartbreaking beauty in the saraband that you know, it's in D minor. It's there's so many potential different shades of emotions that come out of this music. And for me, that was so powerful, just to use music to kind of let some of this out. It was really therapeutic to kind of take that pressure that was building up in and just kind of use the music to kind of let it out. And, you know, I knew from the get-go that I had a history with this movement, that I loved performing it, but then the context of doing it now was important. And so I couldn't think of anything else to do. So yeah, it's you know, it really, there's so many things that we can't express with words, and that music enters.
There's this wonderful thing that Mendelssohn said. Somebody, you know, he wrote a whole series of, for piano, songs without words.
Mm-hmm.
And various people during his lifetime tried to put words to these songs without words. And his comment was that, you know, these were never meant to have words, because music is a language that is more precise than words. And what it expresses is emotionally more precise than what is possible to say with words. And I think there are times that that's really true. And, you know, you couldn't put the emotion of, or the feelings of any Bach piece, you couldn't describe it in words. They would be completely inadequate to describe what's happening there. And that's why it's so healing and important.
Yeah, I agree. It's words are incomplete sometimes.
Words are incomplete. And, you know, Bach, I'm reminded of this when we talk to people. Bach was a guy that lived through a lot. I mean, he had a lot of lived experience, and you hear that in his music. I mean, he lived through famine, he lived through wars, he lived through pandemics, you know, of the time. He had all those children, many of whom died. So he had personal suffering, he had societal suffering that he dealt with, he had his career suffering that he dealt with. He had a lot of experience, and you hear that in these pieces of music. They have, as simple as they are, you know, it might be one little line. As simple as that one little line might be, it speaks volumes.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely, and there's something to be said about how, you know, and I've heard several of us use these terms of the desert island composer, or like, you know, it's Bach is Bach for a reason. And that's why we're able to do so much with his music.
Mm-hmm.
So
kind of a miracle, really.
Yeah.
That it ever happened. We're so lucky. And there's something, you know, every single instrument can play Bach successfully. Yeah. I think, you know, it's, you know, and I'm playing all this Bach in transcription right now, and you know, it's not the same, but boy, it sounds so fantastic, and it's so rewarding for everybody who gets to try, you know, to try and play it. You know, our friend Perry Karp plays all the violin music on the cello. I mean, he's crazy, you know, he does all this really hard stuff. And then, you know, the viola players too are playing the cello pieces as much as they can with some, you know, jumps around. You do make some adjustments, but boy, that music stands up under any transcription. You know,
It does. It's interesting how it's universal in that sense. It defies medium. And it's, you know, and I say that as a bassoonist, obviously playing cello suites. And I also say it as like a member of my quintet who programs Bach on almost every program. And, you know, we're really grateful that there's some really great transcriptions. There is a skill and an art form to making these transcriptions, but
Sure.
the fact that his music can traverse, you know, all the mediums and still have a message that stays intact. That's something you can't say about every composer.
Yeah. Something else that's sort of been amazing to me, there was a big celebration of Rampal recently. Jean-Pierre Rampal, the famous flute player who really made flute playing popular in the 1960s, 50s and 60s, I would say, and lived to be a pretty old guy and had millions of recordings. So the style of playing Bach and Baroque music in general has changed, you know, so much. We know so much more about it now. We know a lot of things that we didn't know back in 1960. And in the same way that Bach is so great on every single instrument, it's great if it's played in this very romantic way, the way they treated it in the 1960s, you know, like just, and it's fantastic in this more astringent, early music informed practice, you know, that I'm more accustomed to now through listening to people play on traversos with no keys, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, no matter how you slice it, it works.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I remember my some of my early albums that I had von Karajan and the Berlin Philharmonic playing the St. Matthew Passion, and you know I've you know, worked as a choral accompanist a lot during my lifetime, and you know, coached choruses and prepared them for different performances, including Matthew Passion many times. And you know, I listened to that recording and like those tempos, they are so slow, the sound is so heavy, it's so full, but oh my God, so beautiful. Just and it's the first performance that I heard, and it you know, it just struck me deep in the heart. And the same was true for the Brandenburg Concertos. I think my first recording of the Brandenburg Concertos was Berlin Philharmonic, von Karajan conducting. Whereas today, they're not conducted at all, right? People don't conduct them. And it's much faster, much lighter, but you know, that's the way that I fell in love with this music initially, those old recordings.
Right. Yeah. Well, good. I can't wait to hear this performance today after our interview is over. And I know the audience is going to be so inspired by some of the references that you made today, literature and movies, and of course, these pieces of Bach that we just talked about. So I could listen to you play Bach all day, Adrian, so we can get a chance to do that together in the future.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.